This iconic villain is now ranked amongst the top monsters of our time. Yes, up there with Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, the Mummy, and it's all thanks to this little film that was made on a shoestring budget all the way back in 1984. So whatever you do while you're watching this, don't fall asleep. Ah! Hey gang, thanks for dropping by Mauricio's crib for another talk on an 80s film. If this is your first time here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and if you've come back for more, again, I truly, genuinely appreciate your support. You can also follow me on Instagram and as well on TikTok for exclusive content. With the success of Halloween and Friday the 13th, the early 80s proved that there was an audience for horror. Some were rip-offs of significant and holiday dates, and others were successful originals. Director Wes Craven, known for directing The Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes in the 70s, came across an article where a young boy died in the middle of a nightmare, despite warning his parents that he was afraid to sleep. The article inspired him to write A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now that Wes had a story, he didn't want the killer to be dormant or wear a mask, so he came up as him being a burnt victim. He also got the concept of Freddy, of a man that scared the living daylights out of him when he was a kid, wearing a hat and a trench coat. Originally, Freddy was supposed to be a child molester, but Wes changed it to a child murderer. He also got the name Freddy Krueger from a bully that used to bully him when he was a kid. And furthermore, to separate his killer from the other films, he didn't want Freddy to have an axe or a knife as his weapon of choice. He had a hard time coming up with something original until his cat raised his paws at him and saw his fingernails, and he thought, that's it. Hey gang, one thing I forgot to mention at the start is that I will be talking about the film and I'll be giving things away. So if you haven't seen the film, I'm just giving you a warning that there's going to be spoilers, okay? So if you haven't seen the film, don't turn off the YouTube channel. You can put me on mute and just admire me mouthing, and then you can actually come back once you've watched the film and go, oh, alright, now I know what he was talking about. So don't say that I didn't warn you, okay? For the role of Nancy, Wes wanted an actress that not only was beautiful, but was also strong looking. He found that in Heather Langenkamp. Heather had been an extra in The Outsiders and in Rumblefish. Amanda Wyss was cast as Tina, who Wes made us believe that she was the protagonist, but had her killed in the first 10 minutes, just like Alfred Hitchcock did with Janet Leigh in Psycho. So now, if you didn't watch this part, not on mute, and you hadn't seen the film, you can't blame me that I didn't warn you earlier. Haha! The role of Glenn was offered to Charlie Sheen, but he turned it down. For years there were rumors that he turned it down because he wanted too much money and they couldn't afford to pay him. But he actually went on record, I think it was in 2014, to say that he turned it down because he didn't understand the concept of a killer killing teenagers in their dreams. How wrong was he, huh? After Charlie Sheen turned down the role, it came down to 3 actors. Wes Craven had 3 photos in front of him when he was making the decision. It was his daughter and her friend that picked Johnny Depp. They apparently just said it's a no-brainer. This was Johnny Depp's first movie ever, and during production he was so scared that he was going to get fired that Wes had to tell him he's doing a great job and to relax. For the role of Freddy, Wes didn't want a stuntman, he wanted an actual actor, but he had a hard time finding one. He ended up casting Robert Englund because in the audition, he put cigarette ash under his eyes and he gave Wes a menacing stare. Robert Englund at the time was known as the friendly alien in the hit TV show V. In the script, there wasn't much of a description of Freddy's glove. Wes had discussions with the special effects team telling him what he wanted. It was special effects artist Jim Doyle that came up with the concept of Freddy's glove. Filming began on the 11th of June 1984 around Los Angeles. Nancy's house is situated at 1428 Genesee Avenue in West Hollywood, and Glenn's house is right across the road at 1419. In the film, it does look like that this can take place anywhere, but the funny thing is, having been there myself, The street is right off Sunset Boulevard, the main highway, which is quite noisy, but as soon as you turn off into Genesee Avenue, it's really quiet. It's quite surreal actually. Tina's house is situated in Venice, California, and the alley where she gets chased by Freddy is right behind the actual house. A power plant was used as Freddy's boiler room, however, it was shut down a year after filming due to asbestos. The film had 80 special effects, considering this movie only went for 90 minutes. See this particular scene where Freddy's arms are like puppets? There were two guys standing on top of the garage pulling the arms by fish wire. Tina's death scene was filmed on a specially constructed rotating room where the cameraman was mounted in a fixed seat while the set rotated. Glenn's demise was also filmed in the same rotating room. After he gets sucked into the bed, they turned it upside down and poured 220 gallons of water mixed with colouring to make it look like blood. Filming was completed in just 32 days, and A Nightmare on Elm Street was released on November 9, 1984. But 2 weeks before its release date, the lab that held the film was not going to release it because they had not been paid. It was producer Bob Shaye that worked out a deal, and thankfully the film was handed over. On the first weekend, it made $4 million. By the end of its theatrical run, it had made $52 million. Not bad for a film that almost everyone in Hollywood rejected and was made on a budget of $1.1 million. So there you have it, gang, another talk on an 80s movie. Thanks for dropping by Mauricio's crib, and if this was your first time here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also, make sure you follow me on Instagram and on TikTok for exclusive content. Until the next visit, you be you and keep on living.